The opinions expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
This is the Anime Roundtable Canada, presented by Anime North. You can contact us via email animeroundtable@gmail.com, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Anime Roundtable, and on the web, animeroundtable.com. On this Super Bowl Sunday evening, February 12th, 2023.
Actually, Mike, I don't think we're allowed to call it that. I think we're supposed to call it the big game. We don't want to get sued into oblivion.
Or the Super Bowl.
But, who's once again, who's
Don't
really
you feel bad, though, Mike, for all those players? They worked so hard, almost getting concussed, trying to win a game of football, the biggest game of their life, and everyone's just going to be watching the commercials and the halftime show.
Well, that's what makes this a cultural event, doesn't it? It's all the way around.
We think we already know one of the commercials because we had the drop of this weird Super Mario Brothers plumbing commercial and then a website for the Super Mario Brothers plumbing in Brooklyn, which I guess is to promote the new Super Mario Brothers movie. So I'm guessing that is Super Bowl related, but it was quite a throwback for the one song they had, the Deke, I believe, song from Super Mario
Brothers. It's the Super
show.
Mario Brothers Super Show, or it's the Anime Roundtable Podcast.
Yay. Okay, so
there was more plumbing I could say in that commercial going on and on that website than we've seen in the whole game series, though. It's like, can we trust them to fix our pipes? I don't know.
Who knows? Well, look, we're spending the big game recording this. Instead of watching big men concuss themselves, we're just sitting here talking about, arguably kid stuff, depending on who you ask about anime.
The wrong people.
Yeah, the wrong people. A good answer. Thank you. Okay, so where do you want to start tonight? Do we start making the Toronto jokes this week about anything concerning Toronto or locally? Or do we just go obligatory and ask Amy and Moh just if they have a thought from last episode we did 2 weeks ago? Because that's sort of been a tradition of ours later. Yes. Let me acknowledge who's here already. Mike Nicholas sitting here in the captain's chair, overlooking 6 points. James Austin, Mohammed Shamarki, Amy Lynn Gregg. Kevin Ng is in transit. And hopefully he'll be able to join us shortly. So does Amy and Moh want to give a thought from last episode, or do we just start to dogpile on the show that's been here in Toronto over the last week?
I mean, the only thing I can add from last time is that I agree with Kevin on his point about Mike Harris. I believe he said some things that were very true about him and that a lot of people agree with.
Probably.
They went from one extreme to the next.
Yeah, and boy, I can remember it quite well.
You guys remember the Ray days? So you went from Ray days to Mike Harris. So it's one reaction gets another one, right, Mike?
Yeah,
even though I don't quite remember Mr. Ray, but I know why people went the way they did, right?
Neither were a winning proposition, I think.
And then guess what happened after that? We got Mike Harris Light and Dalton McGuinty.
Yeah, well, that's another story altogether. Amy, you have a thought?
I guess just to I guess firstly answer your question. I think that, or the question you sort of posed to me, because I listened to the episode just a few hours ago. Um, I think the purpose of anime clubs is what Yama's doing currently. In that, there's a social hub that they have going on Discord and Facebook, focusing on those sort of events, both on and off campus. But it's nice to see that, or it's nice to hear that they still have sort of an in-person gathering, even if it's not quite what we all remember. Although even like during my tenure there, I think it was like what you described was starting. There were people playing StarCraft or Magic or whatever, sort of on the table to the side there. There were often people just hanging out in the club room during the showings, like during shows they didn't want to watch. You had, this podcast in its earlier incarnation where myself and others would sometimes, decide to listen. So I think it was, as much as streaming and the internet's proliferation in general has caused a lot of this. I think it was heading in that direction anyways, even back in the YouTube 3 10-minute parts era of online anime watching. Um, so yeah, it's really nice to hear that. Looking over the sort of summary, I think it's sad that both of these anime awards are probably the most like like filled with integrity as far as like award shows goes these days. Like, you know, there's definitely problems as you kind of discussed there, but given how the big as Genshiken would say mundane award shows go for music and movies and television, where like Get Out was robbed, or not Get Out, Nope was robbed. I mean, Nope was a movie about like this whole thing. It's ridiculous. But like I trust them more, like the fact that like they're saying, okay, we have this fairly diverse team of judges plus an audience vote, which is potential for corruption, but it seems like they recognize that, versus the nonsense of um when they're in the movie awards, where for the animation category you have the judges saying like, yeah, I saw the Disney one with my kids, I voted for that. Where I think it's Cartoon Saloon, the makers of Breadwinners, Secret of the Kells, etc., just gets shafted. Your Leicas with Paranorman and such like that get shafted. So, and with the Game Awards, where as James mentioned, like world premiere is the purpose of the Game Awards, it's just an E3 that's more streamlined, and RIP E3 sort of, I guess. um yeah, like good job both of the anime awards. I still don't think they're the best, but they seem to have a lot of or comparably a lot of integrity.
Well, on the topic of premieres, that's sort of also what's going on tonight with the Super Bowl. Oh, wait, the big game. Thank you.
I am so sad that the Flash trailer looks good. I mean, sad because of the controversy. Like, I have to like think about if I, am comfortable seeing, a movie whose star is cultish at best. I'm glad that they're getting help. Like, that's encouraging considering some other people who have not done the same thing in the past. But like, I love that Danny Elfman Batman theme. Like, it's great, and like it looks fun. Um yeah, as mentioned, like the fact that like they got the Deke like Mario theme for the Mario Brothers trailer. I haven't seen Guardians yet. I saw the Beast Wars Transformers one, which
Oh,
was
you
pretty
mean
much
that?
the
You
same
mean
as
that?
the
You
other
mean that car
trailer.
commercial for Porsche?
But they aired a real one after. Um, but like it was very similar to the earlier one, so like whatever. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm sure more might trickle out later, but
You want to see that?
it's the end slash the beginning of DC movies, which is interesting as far as
Well,
going back to the Flash.
well,
Did you see that Fast X trailer?
No, I care very little about that.
But Aquaman's in it.
oh yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
The tentpole, right? Mo,
Exactly.
of the DC universe.
Well, okay. Where else do I want to go with this? Okay, well, just to acknowledge the clubs again one more time. As I said, I think the clubs here have moved more into the Genshiken type role that we thought would happen when I came up with that thought about a decade ago. We're at that point, I think, now. As I said, it's a little depressing. Do you think that's the changes are a good thing or a bad thing, Amy, or just a thing, or just there?
Um So I think they're mostly a good thing. And the reason for that is I feel that it helps to push the stereotype of anime fans away from the sort of antisocial. Um, and like, even, those people who maybe don't have a lot of social experiences, maybe their high school didn't have an anime club, or they're coming from more rural areas or out of country or out of province where, maybe, it's not as a mainstream interest if you're, from one of those areas. So you weren't able to, sort of develop, fandom or, geek to call it that related social skills. I think, the fact that the clubs are moving in that direction is great. I think it does. There was a social aspect to the showings when I was a member there. And I have incredibly fond memories of that. Like, there was a routine to things of, the people, like the exec would, like, slowly set up the projector, people would be talking, and then, eventually, maybe the lights would dim, maybe they wouldn't, but, an episode of Robot Chicken would play as like a little bit of a pre-show, and then like maybe like a silly AMV, because these are super early YouTube days, so a lot of these funny fandom related videos weren't, as widely distributed. And then, the four sections of showing would play. And, there were certain series that I think worked so well for that. Like, I am convinced that I wouldn't have enjoyed School Rumble as much if it wasn't for watching it in a crowd of people all laughing along. I think it's a fine show. Like, it's funny, but I remember watching later seasons. Like, I bought DVDs or something, and it might have just been a decline of the series once you got to season two. But like, it just wasn't as engaging. So I do think a little bit of that is probably lost. Although from what you said, there are still people watching and sort of chatting. So maybe there's a little bit of that retained. But I think the trade-off is worth it.
I think so. I'm coming to that conclusion as well. I mean, as I said, there's a little melancholy in my heart looking at it, but I always said I understood, and it's for them, and that's for them to move forward more than me. So that's okay.
And I remember that it was always a struggle to figure out what to put in that fourth slot. And I think that, after my time, they did decide to cut that, which, it probably leads to where we are now. But in, my 4 to 7 years there, um, as far as that fourth slot goes, the only time I remember it being like a, a a memorable like showing or memorable moment was the Haruhi Suzumiya episode where they got to God Knows. And somehow there were still a lot of people there at that time. I think maybe Haruhi kept people there, but it was an amazing kind of collective, um, media moment to see and experience and be there, to have, a dozen or two Yamites, like members of the club, all sort of frozen and transfixed, like with this moment. Like I still love that song and that moment. I think that, it's maybe a bit of an exaggeration as far as how impactful it was, but at the time it was so surprising. Like, there hadn't been an insert song like that. It was diegetic, like it was the song that was actually being played in the school's auditorium or gym. And yeah, it was actually a magical moment. That that type of moment is probably gone, which is sad, but better, or not better, well, in some ways, but different magical moments that are maybe more social memories are bound to be created now.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You put it, I mean, you put it into better words than I could. Okay, let's get to some of the news here. And almost
Are you saying the local news, Mike?
Off topic, or almost off topic. Fairly off topic.
How is it on topic?
No, not right now. We're not. Okay, here.
Like knowing where we're going, I'm wondering how.
I think probably we should start with the place we buy manga. How about we start with that place?
Well, okay. Well, let's say who has had it tougher over the last bit. Indigo over the last week, or John Tory over the last 48 hours?
I mean, that's a toss-up, right?
I just want to let you know, Mike, I checked the Indigo site. They're still down with the same update message saying that they're only accepting cash in stores.
That's been since Tuesday, I believe. Wednesday, maybe, at the latest?
Wednesday. So, and basically everything is down. Like their site, the Interact, credit cards, the whole thing. Like I'm not even sure how they're accepting any of the items, like
cash
from well, no, they're obviously doing cash transactions in the stores, but I'm saying how they're getting stuff from vendors, books, for example, into their warehouse and then out to wherever. Because probably if your system's down, everything's down, right?
Yeah, behind
the
scenes,
they're probably at a standstill.
Coming down to
this is probably the biggest one we've seen in a long time, because usually it's after the fact we hear about the cyber attack.
Well, maybe that's. I was about to say give Indigo a little credit, but maybe this is so big you can't cover it up.
And they're still investigating with the third party. So,
right.
Well, everyone's going to change their passwords and do whatever anyway. But
maybe we can get a free book out of it. So, if you're not in Canada, what's happened here over the last week? Indigo, which is the biggest Canadian-based bookseller, I was about to say biggest bookseller in Canada, but that Amazon will probably have something to say about that. But Indigo has suffered an apparent cyber attack. I guess that's the way I should put it. They're investigating, but since the middle of the week, their website has been down, aside from a splash page explaining the situation. And this is not a small thing. One, it is the biggest, as we've mentioned, Indigo is the biggest book retailer in Canada. And when it comes down to us in our fandom, it's probably one of the easier go-tos for manga these days.
And that's probably because of the sales. Whenever they deign allow us a sale,
whenever they
Kevin would say, we've been lucky last December, but
we were lucky, and not these days, because they see they know how much they make off of it, and they just said, what's the point of doing a sale? We don't really have to try.
Well, the other thing is, as they actually said in some of the articles, they said they were actually down in their last quarter, even with the Christmas rush, even though supposedly they had a good Black Friday and a good Boxing Day and stuff like that. So they said they're already seeing the resilience that a lot of people are going to say, do I really need something from Indigo or Chapters? And the answer is probably no, because they're going to be saving their money for other things that are going up in price.
Well, yeah, the whole inflation thing and cost of living stuff going on. Unless
this is going to squeeze them even more, so it'll be
sure,
interesting to see how it plays out.
Sure, I want my free book. So
I don't think we're going to get anything. They're just going to say, "Don't worry, we got your back. We protected your information."
Plum points, come on.
Have a good day.
8,000 plum points. We can talk here. $20, isn't it?
I don't know. Maybe they'll give us like a month or two of Plum Plus, right?
A free lectern, notebook, which I use for my bullet journals, could be a start.
Well, it's funny. You know what did die in Canada? Supposedly, Bed Bath & Beyond.
But that's another story. Yeah, I mean, we passed by that, but yeah, that's going as well. The retail landscape, yes, gotta love it. On the topic of being shopped, John Tory, what do you want to say about the outgoing mayor of Toronto, the center of the Canadian universe?
I did want to quickly talk Indigo first.
Okay, we got ahead of ourselves. I'm so sorry. What's your Indigo thought? I'm so sorry, and I know Kevin will say something when he gets here too, but.
It's interesting that I think both of these entities in Tory and Indigo, people could consider them on borrowed time. Obviously, Tory's is going to be in days or weeks instead of, maybe years. But, if you think about the sort of book landscape of Canada, there isn't a lot of physical options. Like there are online options like Amazon and others, but like generally, like if you want a book right now, or for a birthday or Christmas present or something, there are fairly few options. Like you have Book City, sort of in the south, sort of downtown and into the beaches. Yeah, there's BMV as well, which focuses on overstock and used books. And then there's specialty shops. So there's, places like, the Beguiling or Glad Day. But
basically places that are very, I wouldn't say genre specific, but specific in a cultural sense.
Yeah, but the problem with these, specific and specialty bookstores, so thinking specifically about comic book stores, is that they don't get everything. And by that, they don't get everything on time. There was a graphic novel that I was really interested in called Superman Smashes the Klan or Superman versus the Klan. I forget what they ended up calling it when it was collected. But it was based on an old like a radio series where Superman fights the KKK.
Superman on that front.
Yeah, and they made a modern version of it where like I think it's still set, when the KKK was more prominent and open, with the whole ropes and everything. Not that they're non-prominent now. They've changed names. Anyways, but like it was a great book. They changed it, the focus to like an Asian American family that like had, moved to a different city, probably Metropolis. But it was really good. But like if I wanted it at, Chapters Indigo, it was either in store or I could just, order it and it would be in store in a few days at most. My local comic book store, I had it on order for months because a lot of these original graphic novels are a different distributor than your manga or your regular trade paperbacks, or the what's called the floppies, so the single issue comics, usually superhero genre. But a lot of these original graphic novels, they're lumped in with what I'll call regular books. So there is no, guarantee about when you're going to get those. I was very interested in a original graphic novel called Galaxy, the Prettiest Star, and it's a fantastic trans superhero, trans writer, very beautiful art, but like if I wanted it at my comic book store, it would probably take months. Um, Generally, I would like to support smaller comic book shops, but Glad Day, wasn't carrying it. They do carry some graphic novels, but that's a weird, um, I guess, zone in between young readers and young adult, I guess. So, that was out. And Page and Panel had closed down this past summer, which would probably have been, the most likely place to get it as sort of this, indie comic book shop that, still had connections. It's attached to a library.
Yeah.
But like, that's gone now. And I could see if maybe Beguiling had it, but like, I don't necessarily want to go downtown. So Chapters, I think I got it at Chapters Markham, um, or one of the chapters in Markham. There's probably a couple. And it was easy. It was a little difficult to find, but it was there. It was still shrink wrapped, which I was kind of concerned about that it was shrink wrapped for LGBT content, but I searched online and it was just a shipping error. Um, so yeah, like Indigo Chapters, Coles, the couple of those that are still in existence, Indigo Spirit, I think they have like they do have a purpose and a place. Um, and I'm not sure if they'll ride the wave that has sort of resurged at least one of the American chains. But with this cyber attack, which may be ransomware, I'm curious if this will hasten, if not a closure, at least, a lot more, shutdowns of stores.
It's, I guess, a question, and first things first, let's just see what happens after the website comes back up.
I guess we've always seen that, haven't we, Mike? When we were at Comic Den, it's like Diamond Distributors is the only game in town, right? So that can have an effect. But even then, sometimes Diamond is the one giving it to the bookstore, so you never know, right?
As for who had it worse, I mean, I see Chapters Indigo as a multi-million-dollar company and John Tory as a multi-millionaire. So, like, I don't care, whatever. Like, it's sad for the people of Toronto/Canada, but as far as like the actual individuals like who are running like a bookstore chain who purpose, again, I just praised them for availability, but let's put independent booksellers out of business versus multimillionaire mayor, like whatever.
Well,
let's
yeah, I at least wanted to acknowledge that big news. It's, well, let's just leave that for now. It's too out of the way anyway. Okay.
One news definitely came on the Friday night, so it definitely was quite a thing.
I'm sure he wrote messages to like welcoming people to Anime North. I'm sure if you look in those booklets, there's like a note that his intern copy pasted his signature on that says.
Did we have that? I can't remember if we ever had the mayor or from any of the years put something in there. Like I know other cities do that, but I can't ever remember that being an Anime North booklet or anything at all.
Fair question, but I don't recall that.
I don't think any mayor has done a message for us. Like I know they do it for Anime Expo for the Los Angeles mayor, and that's probably similar to what you're thinking.
And then in Houston for what's it called down there? Yeah.
It might also be TCAF or something. Or the other problem is I have been involved with so many like Japanese events that like it could have been the Japanese Canadian film or the Japanese Film Festival that the JCCC puts on. But as far as like the general cultural zeitgeist, I do remember seeing letters from John Tory or whoever the mayor is, but it
I feel like TCAF could be a possibility.
Yeah.
Especially since it's downtown and it's connected with the Toronto Library, right? Which is a public city.
That sounds likely.
Well, okay. Kevin, you made it. Just gotta acknowledge that Kevin's now here now too. You want to say something, Kevin? Or are you just still trying to get in?
So, what's the topic about? Because I just jumped in the middle of what
you
you were saying.
And you haven't missed the greatest amount. We're about to move on from John Tory, much like the city.
No, I
Oh,
thought we were going to say
that,
move on
Yeah.
from
we're about to move
Indigo
on.
chapters.
Okay, do you want to say something about
Is your
Indigo's
data
problems
safe,
this week?
Kevin?
Well, considering how pre-pandemic we were able to like stack 3 discounts, doesn't surprise me that this is one of the things they didn't patch and it ended up happening. Kind of sad because it is Canada's bookstore monopoly. You think they would have been able to afford better security, but
I mean, let's not jump the gun here. We don't know what happened exactly, right? I mean, this could all be an innocent mistake by someone, or
innocent mistake, please.
Yeah.
Social engineering, right?
Did y'all see that there was a social media post of someone at like an airport restaurant or something who tipped negative $38 or something and got like everything for free?
Wow.
There was some like security, error where you weren't like the person wanted to add like a different tip than the suggested ones. And in order to not enter a tip, I think you add a negative number, but they didn't have a cap to that negative amount. So the person just put like, negative his bill amount, which like $38 or something, and it just came out to 0. So, maybe, this could be something to look at for Indigo. They can implement the same technology.
Oh boy.
Because they've always ran pretty ancient back systems. This is just based on me having briefly worked at a Kohl's.
Wow.
And like they have a better systems in place now, but they still run a couple of these really ancient ones for like other things. And during sale times, that site has always been kind of janky. Like I shouldn't say janky, but if I was trying to place a big order,
would say no more. I would say at least better than Best Buy's.
Like if I was trying to place a big order during a sale, my cart could take 5 minutes to load.
That type of thing.
Like I'm not exaggerating. It could take 5 minutes.
And maybe the perspective is probably still better than Best Buy's because it may be their next in some form.
I hate to say it, but pick your poison, right? Because we've heard all sorts of different businesses, public, private, across the world, right? That people keep on testing them and going at them. So it's like a race. You keep on fighting against them, right? For the social engineering people and the hackers, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. Okay.
But hopefully we'll see what happens, and hopefully our data will be fine, but we'll still be changing our passwords.
I still want my plum points.
And what was it? Was it 1Pass or what was the 1Password thing where it's like the 1Password for everything? And even they got hit a few months ago.
Yeah, it wasn't 1Password, but it was LastPass or something.
LastPass, yes, LastPass was the one.
Okay.
As for John, I was a little surprised. I know we were talking as it happened that I saw a notification on the 680 News app at 8:15, 8:20 saying that this has been reported and that John Tory would have a press conference at 8:30 that Friday night.
And I just got the notification.
I didn't even hear anything.
Yeah, but yeah.
So
I just happened to be looking at my phone when that happened, and I thought, okay, well, he's not going to be here for long, and he did not stay.
You saw that coming right down Dundas.
And he did not
I think for him, though,
as mayor for long. And knowing how he ran for office on the basis of being accountable and getting rid of the corruption in City Hall after Dear Rob was mayor, it didn't surprise me to see him immediately resign. Because if he is to have any future in Canadian politics, that was the right thing to do.
I don't think he has a future, so to speak. But as you said, I think this type of scandal, because he was lonely during COVID, they had a consensual relationship and blah, 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 blah. It is survivable. But for his personal life, he had to do the right thing. And he had more integrity than a lot of politicians out there. So we knew he was going to do the right thing, which was, I'm going to quit and I'm going to face this with my family, because he doesn't want to lose his family. I think he has more respect than a lot of people out there. But it is sad that you got, well, at least the people of Toronto, they went from crack mayor to mayor who was lonely during COVID to hopefully normal mayor. I don't know who normal mayor will be, but we'll see what happens. Maybe, as I told you guys in the pre-show, it'll be through an algorithm and they'll check a random person from Toronto and give them the special mayor powers. But they won't be able to use it because no one on council will trust them.
That might be worthwhile. Okay.
So, all right. The thing is that, you know, maybe he didn't push for affordable housing as hard as he should have. Maybe this budget, he was upping the police budget. And do they really need more money? I'd like to say not really. Or at least not as much as they should be getting this year.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that people did praise him for is that he was able to keep the different factions at City Hall in line. So things
this is a release the hounds moment. Yeah.
And it wouldn't take so long to get stuff approved. And like he was able to appease the opposite sides, like the left and the right. He provided stability on that front when it came to budgetary decisions. And that's something you do want.
Yeah, that's something you want, but how much
if someone does have the special powers, you want someone like that, right? You don't.
Yeah, that is a little.
Anyway,
a little disconcerting when the whole strong mayor powers came into effect for him.
We don't know what's going to happen going forward with whoever ends up going forward. But
well, I see a lot of like things getting a little fractured from this point until then.
But we did see him reappear because he was beside Bonnie Crombie
this morning
today at City Hall for the visitation or the viewing of Hazel McCallion for the next 2 days before her state funeral, supposedly on her birthday on the 14th.
Yeah.
And I just want to say one more thing that I've seen various people comment, well, how come he's resigning when Rob Ford smoked crack and was still mayor? And to that I say the optics were different.
To that I say, well,
different people,
probably should have at the time. Rob Ford probably should have at the time too, but he didn't.
I always feel like in the eyes of like our society, cheating on your spouse or significant other is looked down upon more than smoking crack.
Yeah, that adds up.
It's kind of an odd thing to say, since I would say the sin of Rob Ford was greater than John Tory, but it's a crazy world, right? And everyone's different, right?
Yeah. Well,
we just are along for the ride, so hopefully democracy works itself out, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let's continue just a little bit. I want to move away. Like I said, we were trying to move away from Rob Ford, from John Tory. Jeez. I'm all confused.
You know what? Since Kevin's here, do you want to talk real quick about those fancy red boots?
Okay, so do you want to talk about the Astro Boy boots just quickly?
Can we wear with the Astro Boy boots the gacha machine backpack?
Ultimate combination.
Well, if you're confident, sure.
Thank you.
That'll be the cosplay at the one con, right?
I think you just gotta own it if you're gonna wear it. Whether or not you just wear it with your own stuff, or if you're gonna wear the little black shorts and wear the Astro Boy wig or the Atom wig.
You might as well just go all the way in some form, right? It sounds like Matt Alt, looking at his his Facebook posts says as much.
That reminds me, on a similar fashion off-topic thing, there was a luxury brand called Low who did a collection involving
Bro,
Howl's Moving
those
Castle.
sweaters were really expensive, man.
Yes,
Also,
because it's luxury fashion.
Isn't it sort of like I was about to say Jimmy Choo?
Oh yeah, there was the Sailor Moon
Sailor
Jimmy
Moon
Choo shoes that are going to come out later this month too.
I wonder how Danny feels about him, his son, and noted anime fan.
Well, it's not the first time Jimmy Choo has done a Sailor Moon shoe collab.
No, and but it's just I'm just curious to know what his son would have thought.
Probably thought it's cool.
I'm pretty sure.
And it's also not Low's first time doing a Studio Ghibli collab. They've done 2 other collections involving Ghibli franchises. So they did a Totoro one, and I believe they did a Spirited Away one, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I would see. I couldn't say I know.
And as you'd expect with luxury collaborations like this, there was definitely thought put into the design because they have a bigger budget to execute that kind of stuff. So to me, some of the highlights are the black feathered Howl jacket that Howl wears at one point in the movie. They do it in the style of a cardigan, but it's $17,000. And then there's another like overcoat where the inside lining has, I think, the scene. I think it's like the book scene. It's like that scene where there's a lot of books. I don't know how to describe it very well. I'd have to link it as we continue the podcast. But they also use these like a lot of like jewelry, like golden jewels that they scatter around on different parts of the coat as well. So beautiful, but so expensive.
Well,
like I want to window shop that. I want to go to a Low and window shop.
Take a picture. Just take a picture.
Yeah, like and of course there's some basic pieces that don't look that great, but they also made the moving castle itself into a bag, and they used 2 different bags to reconstruct the moving castle, which I thought was also very cool.
You know somebody though will try and rock the look.
Oh yeah,
somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, since we're on the topic of ready to wear stuff, do we want to talk this cosplay thing going on in what is this at Neo Anime
Idaho, I believe.
Yeah, Boise, Idaho. Is there something to add to this one?
It's nonsense.
That's it?
Like, well, no, there's so like I think in our sort of pre-show chat, Mo brought up the point that it's, just maybe like a publicity stunt. I don't think it is. Like, I mean, that might be the end result, but like, I think it's just they got some sort of weird gatekeepers in charge of running this convention. Which I think is just really sad. So for those who don't know, this convention in Idaho, I think it's a smaller one. Like they have a cap and it's, decently small. But they released a statement saying like something like this event is for anime and manga and Japanese games only. There are other conventions if you like other things. So we are going to strictly enforce a Japanese property only cosplay rule, and like I guess ask people to leave if they're cosplaying Batman or Nathan Drake or whatever. And like I can't believe that they would go that far for attending the convention. If it was for a costume contest or something like that, and they wanted to, maybe they had a guest judge from Japan or whatever, or, just they were having a contest and maybe there was a prize or something, and they wanted to theme the contest and restrict it to Japanese properties, fine. but technically there's no reason why someone can't just dress as Batman down the street. So the fact that that they feel that it's right to just kick people out for wearing non-Japanese theme or Japanese media themed cosplay, I just can't really fathom it. Or I can, because there's a lot of weird gatekeepers out in the world. But like, I'm just imagining, like, I kind of, I wanted, if I was anywhere near Idaho and had the, motivation, making, Batman Ninja or Animatrix cosplays, or, throw a wrench in the mix and have a cosplay group from Cannon Busters or Oban Star Racers, where, they're American or French, co-productions, you know, Cyber 6 or something,
Well,
where it's like animated in Japan but never aired there. Like there's a lot there.
It's a Pandora's box to me. When you put it in those terms, remember, we have these ongoing discussions about what constitutes anime these days. So put that on this announcement, and it becomes even more problematic. That all said, my two favorite cosplays I've ever seen at Anime North, or most noteworthy ones, and the ones that just made me laugh and just enjoy the effort they put into that, were not anime related at all. One, I don't know if you saw this quick video of somebody running around like a potted plant. And then every few seconds, they probably would sit down or just kneel and then just blend into the surroundings at the TCC. There's an old video of that. And the other one, and I just remember really liking the effort. Somebody dressed up as, was it Bob Ross, the painter? And then his girlfriend dressed up as one of his paintings. I thought that was well done. I'm just saying. But it's just so okay. Kind of problematic. But
People get into leadership positions, and yeah, I think it's just sad. I think it's problematic. I'm like, one of the first things I remember was my first or second ever Anime North, and I was standing in line, to get the ticket or whatever, and I heard someone comment something like, thank Jesus there aren't, 100 effing Inuyashas this year. And, kind of similarly, I have been online, like I've seen and just hearing people's comments, like, I've been around for people complaining about, too much My Little Pony, too much Homestuck,
too much Eva back in the day, too much Haruhi, too much
yeah,
Sailor Moon.
but as far as like the non-Japanese properties, like with Doctor Who and with My Little Pony and Homestuck and stuff, like, I vaguely get the sentiment of like, if over 50% of the costumes end up, being American properties, it's, a little bit weird being at a convention called Anime North. But my general perspective is, who cares? It'll balance out another year, or they'll be forced to change their name, or they won't, and people will just admit or acknowledge, yeah, it's a multi-fandom convention, whatever. Yeah, I don't get the imperative or the drive to gatekeep like that. Like, I hate gatekeeping in general, but like, for just, and again, to emphasize, like, for just cosplaying around the convention, like, again, costume contest, something like that, I'd be more, charitable in my viewing of this, but it's just draconian.
Yeah. Kevin? You have a thought? No?
I never minded people dressing up as characters or things or items from non-anime franchises at anime conventions. We all can coexist with one another.
Well, isn't that sometimes what's asked for?
Yeah.
Isn't that what the fandom is? That what has been known to ask
And
for too in the
generally,
past?
that's how it's been. Like, there
Mhm.
hasn't really been problems that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
It's just
Okay.
kind of baffling to see this kind of thing happen. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but
Fandom can be factional in many respects too.
the only thing that would really annoy me, and this is not even cosplay related, was when I would see, like, actually when it came to just programming at anime cons, when I would see like too many unrelated panels,
Okay.
like, and by that I mean just like, I don't know, stuff like My Little Pony or something.
Mm.
Like, having
Well,
some of those is fine, but I know there were years where there was like a noticeable amount of non-anime programming, or non-Japanese related programming, I should say, because I always thought like the tangentially related ones were never a problem.
well, it depends on how far away you want to be in that tangent.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's a different thing entirely, though. But I look at like Fan Expo, where, like, everything under the sun is represented.
Well, yeah.
Things ebb and flow there too, of course, as always.
But that's the thing with
Like with
fan expo.
anime.
What's popular right now? Okay. I guess we should let's just start to move on.
It's funny. Did you see, Mike, that Dave Merrill entered the fray on that one with the tweets and stuff like that?
Okay, just
Because
quickly, what's his comment?
wow, it was interesting because obviously this, I'm not sure, as Mo said, maybe they did it for publicity because maybe they're a smaller con or whatever and they want a certain thing, and they admitted that obviously the wording was very out there, to say the least, which people called them out on. But Dave said, yeah, we've probably done that before, because remember, it was AWO, right? Anime Weekend Atlanta, where he used to run that convention, stuff like that. And I think he said at one point, what was it? They had like no Klingons, no blah, blah, blah. It's kind of a similar idea,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I remember this, but
Way back
go ahead,
in the
finish.
day, sort of thing. And he's like, yeah, it's like probably not a great thing to do. But he said, yeah, we've been there.
Okay. All right, so let's start to move on just a little bit. You know what? Mo?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I know we talked about this. Much of what I want to talk about was also based on a phone conversation Mo and I had on Monday, but I think we're running a little long already. And I know I want to talk a little bit about like just get into at least the East Asian pop culture part and talk a little bit about Jackie Chan and Michelle Yeoh. Can we save that conversation for probably closer to the Oscars or another time, Mo? Because I know we had an interesting thought, some interesting thoughts in that phone call.
I mean, yeah. I mean, hopefully by the time we do have that conversation, something more would have developed. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but there is a conversation, a part of that phone conversation I do want to bring up here and then let the others in on. When Mo and I talked on Monday evening last week, we talked also a little bit about, well, James Gunn talked a little bit about his intentions with, what do we call it, the DC cinematic universe or extended universe? Is that the term?
I guess that would be correct. And I guess
The one
before they
previous
had a plan, right?
The
Yes.
one previous ended up eventually being called the DC Extended Universe, or the DCEU. I think now, from what I remember, they're just calling it the DCU, so they're just, saying DC Universe, so they're just doing the simplest option.
And there's some thoughts, read a couple articles. I haven't seen the presentation. First of all, I'm going to preface that by saying I haven't seen the presentation, what the news conference. But I read a couple articles on what was said about the intentions. And there were some thoughts and some takeaways that I wondered about, and I want to bring up with you, all of you, and then maybe somehow bring that back into relate that into our fandom. a little bit. So the takeaway I got from Gunn's intentions is that he wants to base his movies more heavily on comic book plots, on DC comic plots, and probably have them less interconnected too. They might exist. There might be some cameos, but not really have any characters or anything like that, unite in a single movie, in an all-star type movie like the Avengers. Just have everything exist fairly on their own, but have their stories more heavily based on the actual comic book plots. I'm going to cite the last couple paragraphs of a Polygon article about this, which basically went like this. And they brought up a really good point, basically saying, in not so many words, saying in many respects, the MCU and Marvel Studios and the Marvel Cinematic Universe has become a slave to the narratives they've built over the last 20 years, and probably cannot depend on the previously published comics to make plots for their movies anymore. They're a slave to that. They're a slave to what they've already established, and they can only really depend on the comics to tie up certain loose ends. So maybe this is the chance that this is the advantage that DC has right now. It's very much a clean slate at this stage, and they can use original comic book plots to help be the basis for the movies they should be making, and probably delve into a lot of other aspects, darker aspects of characters that are depicted as well. Am I getting this, expressing myself okay? Is this the tone I got to last time, Mo?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So I'll read out the last two paragraphs of the Polygon article that was written by Josh Rivera back on February 4th. At this point, Marvel Studios have their own dense continuity to honor and an established house style and cosmology that all new installments must visually adhere to. In this stage, comics are stripped for parts as they prop up the MCU, and it would be nice for its competitor to distinguish itself by doing the inverse, making films that prop up the grand variety of DC's much longer and more varied history. But what's best might be something Gunn didn't announce, an Avengers-style crossover. Perhaps there's one in the bag that isn't being shared yet, as Gunn did say this was only part of the new DCU plan. Yet the submission alongside the stated focus on stories and scripts strongly suggests that the next DCU is also a more standalone one, more interconnected via consistent characters coming and going, and less so by plot. Because that's truly the best way a DCU can differentiate from Marvel, by offering an array of varied films with familiar faces that audience can drop in and out of without missing much. No sagas or phases, just a good time. And those were the words that kind of stuck out about the intentions and what people saw in those intentions that Gunn expressed. So, James, Amy, Kevin, yeah, and even Mo, if he wants to add anything. What do you guys think so far?
Does it surprise me DC's rebooting this again? No, but I do feel like in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they are running out of popular superheroes, and if you're using your not so popular franchises, the storytelling better be top tier. And the impression I get is that it's starting to get a bit spotty. So I agree in that the time is now for DC to finally get their shit together and create a proper cinematic universe of their own, however they want to go about that.
James, Amy?
Guess that kind of ties into what they said the first movie will be too, right? In Superman Legacy, and there was that one quote where they said you can't tell the same good guy, bad guy, giant thing in the sky, good guy wins story again. So it'll be interesting to see, well, what do you tell?
I hope that it's all about him being a reporter and writing articles and stuff. That's pretty cool.
I think when it comes, like you said, James, it's not about good guy and bad guy anymore. Everybody has their own scruples, and I think maybe that's something that was failed to that hasn't been expressed in cinema in terms of Superman at the very least.
And I guess it was because for DC, you had Superman on one end, and then his antithesis was Batman, right?
And
we saw how that played out, right?
What do you mean by scruples?
Okay, no, not in scruples, but just their internal. I wouldn't say demons might be overstating it, but the battles they have internally. Whatever, like the fact that they're not perfect. That's what I'm wondering. Like I'm pretty sure in their plot lines, there's certain parts, there's certain dark characteristics to Superman too.
I guess
that
when
might
you're
be worth exploring.
thinking that way, I'm thinking of the reboot they did for James Bond with Daniel Craig, kind of like that, right?
Yeah, along those lines.
Man of Steel was an attempt at a dark Superman, and it absolutely failed. The reason why I think James Gunn's approach is hopeful is because they're restoring hope to Superman, like not the opposite. And I think that the main advantage is that they finally kind of understood that all of these characters have different tones. One thing that is sort of sad about what we had was with Zack Snyder. Everything ended up being painted with a coat of Zack Snyder paint until fairly recently. Wonder Woman managed to go without a lot of that paint. Shazam did. But if you look at the first terrible Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, and then, even the Alter Justice League, but especially Zack Snyder's Justice League, they're all like really dark and Superman is like never smiling. His first movie famously, causes so much destruction, and the excuse is that it's his first day, sure, but unfortunately we never got a Man of Steel 2 for him to reconcile that. Instead, he was just shoved into 2 or 3 more movies. The best Superman has ever been was when it wasn't Henry Cavill and it was just a body double at the end of Shazam when he went to Billy's school, and then at the end of Black Adam where, he at least looks a little bit more the part. I think that if you look at, and this has been said countless times, but if you look at the history of both Marvel and DC, Marvel is, the real world more so, and DC is intended to be more fantasy. But I think because of, the Dark Knight, and to some extent, Zack Snyder's vision, they tried to make the DC universe into this, incredibly dark, realistic, broody, world, which, makes a character like Shazam or Booster Gold difficult to integrate and keep the integrity of those characters. Which is a shame. Like even someone like Superman, he should be hopeful. Like he said in this movie, "Oh, the S means hope," but like he didn't really.
S means hope. Yeah, this means hope. I think it was.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Right? Yeah.
but he didn't embody that. He just said it. Yeah, sure, the Jesus analog exists, but that doesn't mean you have to have a bunch of, dark gray filtered people worshiping him in a weird crowd shot. So what is great about at least the plan for James Gunn is that it seems like every one of these movies is separate. Like Superman is, based off of a series where Superman is confronting his nature as a hopeful being. The Batman story they're doing is based off an interesting father-son dynamic. The Swamp Thing movie is supposed to be horror. The Creature Commandos, when you have Frankenstein and a weasel and a normal guy and a robot on a team, yeah, things are going to be kind of weird, but they're still, doing secret missions or whatever. So there's that element.
The Authority.
Yeah, the Authority is going to be probably slightly softer. The Boys,
Paradise Lost.
Yeah, we have Game of Thrones in there. Booster Gold is going to be a comedy. The Green Lantern, this is the one, I guess, bit of concern as far as the hope that there won't be, too much crossover. The Green Lantern show is supposed to be the two Green Lanterns investigating a mystery that will have ramifications for the entire universe. Hopefully that's a couple, they're calling them chapters down the road. But still, all of these things seem like they are going to have different vibes, which is perfect. And
Yeah.
what DC is all about.
Well, then I'll go back to adding, okay, so they want to depend a little bit more on the histories that's already been written, like the stories that are already out there. And as I said, let those original stories kind of shine by themselves, not strip them for parts, as was written as was suggested in the Polygon article.
And the MCU has such an interesting story, right? Because their biggest character of Spider-Man they couldn't use.
Well, there's a certain irony about that, isn't there?
Yeah, they had to use their B-listers to create, and they made them A-listers and beyond. Maybe Captain America was a B+ or A-, but it was Spider-Man and Wolverine as far as Marvel's go-to characters. Iron Man was probably at Green Lantern level or lower as far as notoriety. The Carol Danvers Captain Marvel was probably at around Booster Gold level. So it's the history there is so interesting as far as what they had to do and what they succeeded in doing. And what's happening with both franchises now. I'm sure, both will be fine in their own way, but
yeah, I mean, there's a curiosity there, but I think what just grabbed me about this whole thinking is becoming a slave to your success in some ways. Maybe that's sort of because that seems to be the what's implied about MCU. It can't really deviate from a narrative it's taken all this time to establish.
Now that they have access to Fantastic Four and X-Men, I could see them just focusing on those sections of the world and hoping no one, thinks about the other sections for a while, because, there's enough there that they can,
yeah,
they have stories to tell.
Well, yes. As I said, it's just all, you become a slave to your success in some ways. So maybe you have to just go to parts that you haven't established. I mean, that's like you said, that's MCU's goal. In the DC side, well, it's clean slated again. Maybe I'm just looking for maybe when it came to the whole Zack Snyder Code of Paint thing, right? Just something a little bit more middle ground, I guess. Because I'm not totally sure how Pollyanna, do we get borderline Pollyanna when we talk about Superman too? That's my question.
He's supposed to be Pollyanna, though. Like there is depth to Superman,
Well,
but it
maybe that's the
doesn't
word I was
mean.
looking for.
But it doesn't
Maybe that's the
mean.
word I was looking for. Depth.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that he needs to. Like, there are so many evil and dark Superman stories out there. Like, if you look at The Boys, if you look at Invincible, if you look at even within DC with Injustice and with Ultraman, we've done dark Superman so many times. On the big screen, we haven't had a light Superman since Brandon Routh. Like, and
basically channeling his inner Christopher Reeve, right?
yeah, exactly. And like you can have depth because, one of the great things about the story Superman versus the Elite, which was an animated film, I forget what the comic title is that you have a group of these superheroes who show up and they are killing people where Superman doesn't. They are, taking this hostile more aggressive route, and I'm spoiling the story, but like the resolution is Superman pretends to do the same thing, and the people are like shocked, and they realize that like, oh, maybe there is room in the world for hope. We thought we wanted murder and destruction, and like that end of the episode or the season in The Boys where spoilers, Homelander just like laser beams the guy open and the crowd starts cheering. Like, do the people want that, or do they want someone who is going to inspire? You have the show Superman and Lois, where Superman is dealing with the fact that he is Superman. He has children. He has a wife. There's all the stories about like, Superman's duty to, like, does he end political conflict? And this gets addressed a little bit in Injustice as well. Like, is it Superman's place to, end the war in the Middle East, right? Like, there is ways to make Superman interesting, and writers have been doing this for decades. Like, even you look at something like the bottled city of Kandor, like a part of Superman's home, a villain shrinks and Superman can't just instantly save it. Like, finding ways for this invincible, perfect person to be challenged, you can do that without making him wonder if he should snap Zod's neck or, just burst through a building and not care about the fact that it's collapsing. Like, the real Superman would be like, oh no, I have to save everyone and figure out how to do this while fighting this villain and not killing this villain because I believe in that they can change, or that there are better ways to, resolve this conflict. Like, we have the Punisher, we have, Namor, we have characters that, cool, they can kill, whatever. But like, Superman is this, beacon of hope character that I think needs to be explored with that lens, because we had Man of Steel and some people like it. I don't begrudge them of that, but
you didn't.
yeah,
Of course you
exactly.
didn't, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. Well, there's a thought. There's your thought, right? Like, well, like at least at least to be fair to the DC universe, they're starting with their AAA character in this attempt. Maybe that says a lot about where they, says a lot right now.
The other movies will come when they come.
I think technically Creature Commandos is going to come first as far as like a online, or not online, but animated series. But their tentpole beginning is going to be Superman.
Yeah. So I just want to bring this up, and then, well, we are talking. Like, the suggestion was always try to use the comic books as a lot more of a baseline. And I know as I looked into this last week, and maybe I should have looked at it again before we did this, they were like, okay, here are the stories that are already out there that we think should get the movie treatment. And remind me, I'll try and give that list to you guys, and then I'll try and put the list up for everybody else, along with the other stuff I should be putting up with our show links from past episodes. But reading all of this had me thinking about, well, okay, what about coming back? It's not really the same, but in some ways it is. What about anime and manga as we continue all of this too? Because this was all made. This was also a suggestion. The DCU thing was a suggestion about how to approach it in today's times, and I couldn't help but think about the way our fandom and its media mix is, and the ecosystem there is working right now as that keeps going along, right? Is there some can this not necessarily perfectly translate into anime and manga, but it has me just thinking about the similarities and differences there right now, and maybe where it could be going. But I don't really even know where to start there, right? I mean, next phase is coming up right now. Next phase is coming with various movie adaptations going into theaters. I mean, the Kaguya-sama movie opens up on Valentine's Day on Tuesday. There's of course the One Piece live action later this year. The list goes on and on. And what would make those work? Actually, Moh.
Yes.
Yes. Because I guess this came up in our conversation on Monday. You had something to say about that One Piece poster, didn't you? And then just a whole load of other stuff with it. Because I want you to express that again, because it was hilarious in many respects too.
I mean, it's I don't know. It's tough, man. It's what is there to say? It's like it's One Piece, but it's just like it's you guys can jump in any time now.
Can you explain?
The thing was, I mean, let's see. What Netflix? One Piece. Remember over the last couple weeks that when Shinichiro Watanabe has been recently interviewed about it, about a bunch of things, but the live action Cowboy Bebop came up, and the revelation was that he wasn't involved in it at all, unlike it was suggested.
Scene and then nothing else, and was like, yeah, that's it. I saw it all. I'm good. And cash this check, I guess.
Keep my mouth shut, more like it.
Pretty much, yeah. It's and hopefully with the One Piece, same situation doesn't happen.
Well,
he's more involved.
Yeah. Oda is a lot more involved with that, and he seemingly a lot more involved with that, and I think he's tweeted about that a few times, hasn't he? But as I said, this whole bit with the DCU and MCU has me thinking about anime and manga as well. And
oh yes, that's right. So if One Piece does succeed, hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't know yet. It hasn't come out yet. I'm on the positive side. I did enjoy Cowboy Bebop, so I most likely will enjoy this. But if this does succeed, and they're doing the My Hero Academia adaptation after that, and if that succeeds as well, that's like a firm start to like the shonen Netflix universe. That could be their whole thing.
That's his suggestion anyway.
Oh boy.
Well, there's your open up your can of worms type thing, right?
That's a big if.
Big if. But
I mean, it is shonen, right? I mean,
well, back to the whole shonen
kind of a built-in audience probably will succeed.
Well, it gets the eyeballs rightfully or wrongfully.
Wow.
That's the way I'm
still have the eyeballs as well.
I can't even imagine the kind of budget required to make, say, a Naruto or a Bleach happen.
Even My Hero Academia, I don't like the Invisible Girl's gonna be easy to do, but everyone else, do you I forget so many of these characters' name, but the animal controlling guy with the weird fleshy head, Vanetta's fine. You just have a weird costume. But like, I'm thinking about like Tokugami, like or Sue, where like ideally these are just like practical effects, but they're going to be CG.
Man, imagine CGI Endeavor Space.
Yeah, like, well, that again, that I can see being okay, but there are mutant characters in this show that I think are not going to transfer to live action without a lot of either suspension of disbelief, money, or like magic, essentially.
The suspension of disbelief, I think we have to, let's start there. I think it's always about where the creator sits, I think. And this is like the thing about adapting away from previously published works, right? It's starting to get to the point where the original creative forces are looking to get a larger say. Let's go back to One Piece for a second. Oda being a lot more involved. Let's go back to Cowboy Bebop and Ota not nearly being as involved. But then you go down further, into anime, into the history in terms of anime on the anime side. Fruits Basket is an obvious example right now because of how Takeya felt about the anime and had disagreements with the director. Time's coming. Who's the creator of Karakano? Who's the creator of Karakano?
I should know this.
I forget her name.
And I tried to
peek her name as well.
Suda.
It's Masami Suda.
Yeah.
Masami Suda.
Just checked my shelf.
Yes. Oh, you just look behind you?
Yeah, it's on the shelf.
Yeah,
yes.
Like, in recent, I only learned recently, and only because I hesitate to actually read up on. She probably didn't had her issues with the animated version. Of course, when Hideki Anno has something to do with it, that was I guess you would have different approaches.
Oh, I really want them to do a complete adaptation of Karakano, but I don't know if it can. I don't know if it has enough cachet to do it.
Well, the thing with Fruits Basket was, the creator had a lot more input. Well, and the creator had more input in the second anime. In this adaptation of One Piece, the creator has a lot more input. When it came to Kenshin's adaptations had a mixed bag for its creator. He didn't think much of the OAVs, but he loved the movie. He loved the live action movie. Well, remember when we talked Kimagure Orange Road a couple of years ago after its creator passed away, and Kat Callahan talked about talking with his creator.
It'd be Izumi Matsumoto.
Yeah, Matsumoto. Thank you.
I'm surprised that he didn't just complain that all the actors were too old.
Well, it was interesting because he didn't think much of Shin Kimagure Orange Road.
I'm talking about Kenshin and his pedophilia and stuff.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, we can go there. As I said, we'll have that conversation later in the year.
With Oda, do you think that his involvement is why the characters look like high budget cosplay?
Yeah, see, well, the visuals. What can we say about the visuals at this stage?
Not much, because it's sunset and from behind.
Yeah, that's the thing. So there isn't really maybe
so intentional.
Secrecy is a good thing in that sense.
I am worried that they look too much like the manga designs, as far as the clothing, they seem weird, and maybe this fits, because One Piece is such a fantastical series, maybe having fantastical looking clothing will make a lot more sense. But yeah, it's a weird first impression.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's an incomplete discussion in many respects. So like, how does like most of this was how to approach things in our current times, like a DC and MCU, and then coming back to anime and manga. And the same thing, because we talk about because the reboots come out often with the thinking, okay, this is to introduce to a new audience, but using the techniques of today.
Any approach can work if you do it well. I remember, reading an interview with the author of Howl's Moving Castle, and they were like, oh, it's interesting with Miyazaki's movie, the castle had big chicken legs, and I never thought of it that way. I always envisioned the castle just sort of hovering over the ground, and all these differences. And you get different reports with different interviews, but it seems like she liked the Miyazaki version, even though it was fairly different from what the novel was like. Like, you can change things, you can also make things virtually identical to the source material. Any approach can work if you do it well. It's just a lot of these aren't done well.
Or how much cred you already have at that point, because that's Miyazaki.
Well, I think but I think Howl's Moving Castle is a good movie. There's arguments,
I don't doubt that as well.
But I think it is talent. Like, him and his team are talented artists, so even though they made fairly distinct changes from the source material, they still made a new work of art that sort of honored the source material, but did something different. Like, I don't think you have to be slavish to what came before.
I think that's the point. I think that's the point of the entire conversation we're having tonight.
But you can too. Like, you can adapt something exactly or close to it, and it can still be good. Like, that works too. Like, people like Sailor Moon Crystal, I'm sure. I don't like the art style. I love the weird city pop watercolor of the original, but it's not as accurate. I would go back to it before I touch Crystal, but that's my preferences. Like, you can do both. It's fine.
To my recollection, that first season of Crystal was kind of rough. But they eventually worked out the kinks. And this was despite them having more time per episode, too. Because it wasn't running weekly, to my recollection.
Yeah. Okay. But as I said, this is all, just thoughts. I just popped into my head as the last little bit has come up. So just a thought as to what type of approach maybe all of us will have to see as these things start to come out, whether it is on the east side or the west side, right? On the topic of becoming slaves too, and since we just talked Netflix, password sharing. Let's go through some of these things just quickly before we finish up tonight.
Moh,
I feel like if you had some stock invested in piracy, you'd be happy right now.
Wow. Just like, from my standpoint, I just was surprised they basically made the password, like, if you want to share a password, was it $7.99? Didn't think they go that high. You must as well just buy at least a basic subscription, but maybe that's the point.
Yeah, they need to pay their advertisers.
They're trying to Apple's ladder step everyone now. The whole, like, just a few extra dollars for the next rung of this ladder that never ends, that goes on forever, and we'll just kind of ease you up where the base price will be like $40 a month or something.
Yeah, the sad part is
so stupid.
Like, on the topic of being slaves too, like, there's a part of me that still want, like, I'm hanging on to my subscription anyway, because there's still actually shows I actually want to watch when I have time to watch them.
See, do you have grandfathered pricing though, Mike?
No, well, the thing is, grandfather died, so
honestly, it makes no sense for you to keep your subscription if you're not going to watch it right away.
Here's the grandfathering. Here's the grandfathering part on my end, right? I subscribed to Netflix at a time I was able to use iTunes credits to pay for my subscription. That's the part that's grandfathered for me. Because you can't do that anymore. I can still do that, and that's still there until I cancel it. And I have a lot of iTunes credit.
I see.
Right, and I do chase the deals on the cards.
Yes.
So there's my grandfather right there. Who's your granddaddy?
I remember when Shonen Jump transitioned to the digital magazine before the current format of just the chapters coming up weekly, was that they gave subscribers to the magazine like myself I think it was like a 2-year like buffer or like a 2-year reprieve, I think, in terms of a subscription.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually they transitioned to just the 3 something for the back catalog.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $3 American, but it was like 3 something Canadian or something like that. And it's gone a bit more expensive since by just a tiny bit. But they didn't offer a yearly; they only offer a monthly.
I had a yearly briefly with Spotify too. They did offer a 1-year subscription for a time. Anyway, it's just it's just hilarious. I have to set the IP for my account.
But I will say with Shonen Jump, once my grandfathered pricing ran out, and when they stopped offering Yu-Gi-Oh cards, I didn't have any incentive to continue paying because I already had caught up to everything.
So that's good, and there you go, right?
Because the latest 3 chapters are free.
Oh, yeah, that works. So there's the on that note though, with all the frustration, James, so you talked a little bit about, you sent us this one, the most pirated film and TV titles see uneven impact from streaming.
Yeah, that was Variety, I think. They said it was Muso data through Nielsen, and it was top 10 most pirated TV seasons of 2022, and basically based on streaming and stuff like that. But it's interesting looking at, because as they said, 5 of those are anime. So you have House of the Dragon is number 1, Chainsaw Man is number 2. Next one is Running Man season 1 at 12%. Then Rick and Morty season 6, Moon Knight season 1, Bleach season 1.
Basically,
The Eminence in a Shadow is anime. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power season 1, Spy Family season 1, and then Rise of the Shield Hero season 2.
Well, I presume when they say Bleach, is it you think they're referring to 1,000-Year War? Or 1,000-Year War?
Yes, correct. I think it's all the new ones. So it's all recent series they're looking at. And they actually go in, if you looked at the bottom, to the numbers in that, which is kind of interesting, the last few paragraphs where they talk about old habits dying hard, quote unquote, for the anime fans and stuff like that. And talking about basically that there's the other thing of with anime becoming more popular, and they talk about from the States side as Bleach, Spy Family, and Rising of the Shield Hero being on Hulu. That, remember, we had talked about things being on Netflix, so you get a greater amount of people being able to watch it. That can, I guess, affect the piracy and stuff like that, because some of it, Crunchyroll can only get you so far. Like their main base can only get them so far, as they said. And then the other factor was that many people want it day and date, right? And even with now that a lot of them are hours after the fact, some people want it even sooner, I guess, depending on the series, right?
Yeah, give an inch, take a mile, sure.
And I guess it depends where they're going, because maybe they're like, I don't need Crunchyroll and stuff like that, and I'm fine with Hulu, but I want to see it sooner.
Give an inch, take a mile, right? I mean, that's what I think. What as you said all of that. So
But that's probably more the American side since we have no Hulu.
No, we just got Disney Plus with Star. and that doesn't get you everything either, or enough. Wasn't worth it for me. So, yeah, that's. I don't know what else to add to this one, to be honest. I mean, who your services with at this point, James? Is it just Crunchyroll?
Actually, it's Crunchyroll, and what was it? Haidai gave me another unexpected deal. I don't know how it happened,
Cool.
but I got a deal last year, and I think the way they did it is they prorated the one because I decided, you know what, I'll give them another year. But they prorated it again, and I guess it's because I only used so much of that subscription last year.
That's
so I got it even cheaper again, which is so weird. But hey, I take it.
Yeah, for me, it's Netflix and Crunchyroll. I won't ask the others unless they want to offer where they are on the streaming services.
There are other ways to get things. I'm sure YouTube can still find some free stuff on there.
I have a 1-year Disney Plus subscription only because it came with my Rogers internet service that I paid for, I want to say May or June of last year. And I've already told my family,
Netflix, didn't it?
I've told my sister that if we switch providers, it's getting dumped. I'm not paying for it.
Okay.
Because I rarely watch it, if at all. Because I just don't watch a lot of media nowadays.
Yeah, no, for you it's red stuff. I know that.
Red stuff?
Or books.
Oh,
is it mainly
okay.
books?
Oh, red. Oh, as in READ. I thought you meant like color.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm speaking too fast right now. Mo?
Did you drink both coffees?
No, I didn't have a coffee yet at this point.
All right,
I'll just go to sleep.
Slow down there, man.
We need to give him a Red Bull.
Oh well, there is a canned cold coffee in the fridge. Maybe maybe not. We'll see. Mo, do you do any streaming mainstream or quasi?
I'm down to just Prime, Amazon Prime. Every year they just keep on tricking me, man. It's like I'm gonna cancel one of these years, and but I keep forgetting it. It just keeps on happening.
Okay,
it's not for the free shipping.
No.
It's yes, but it's just
anyway. And
and Prime, but yeah, Amy, what do you?
You on any services or not really?
Not anymore. My ex's mom recently canceled her Netflix subscription, so
like a lot of people. So
yeah, so I'm without. I think that there's talk with a friend group about maybe pooling to get Crave, but aside from that, not currently. I think that would be the only one I would be interested to get new Star Trek sort of early and convenient.
Oh, yeah, and the last season of Picard's just airing now, I heard.
Starting on the 16th, so relatively soon. They had premieres and media outlets have seen the first half of the season. But yeah, like there are a lot I'd be interested in sort of because, the fact of the matter is like a lot of the times I found that the legal option is better. Like it's interesting, like with streaming on a third party website or whatever, like piracy, loading is problematic, buffering is problematic, like it's not as enjoyable, like maybe if I had better internet. But like with Netflix, everything was usually relatively smooth, so it was a more enjoyable experience.
Can you just torrent it? Like, wouldn't that be easier?
No, like I don't want to waste room on my computer for that. So torrenting to me, torrenting is much easier comparatively, but it reminds me of like all the people who always say to, oh, just switch to Mastodon, just switch to Linux. Like it's, again, torrenting is much easier than those two, but like it's a complicated techie solution that I don't want. Like I'm I'm moving away from being you know I'm moving away from physical media. Like if I get a gift, cool. If something is only available in physical media, I'll go for it. But like I don't want things hanging around. Like, I'll just watch what I want at the time. Like if
it's a very 21st century thinking.
If Google Rentals had more like, as of air date offerings, I would probably go that route. Like if I could spend $2 to rent an individual like episode or season or something like that, I would do that, but that doesn't exist. So, if I wanted to watch like the latest episode of, let's say Owl House or something, I think that like unless I don't know if I think it is connected to Disney Plus, but you know, it is better now because of this, streaming. Like so few shows are just aired on live TV. Like let's say The Flash, like that's one where like unless I go to piracy, like I don't have cable. So I'm either waiting a few days or a week, or I look for piracy options if I wanted to see The Flash.
Mm.
The show, not the movie.
Yes, I figured that's where you're going for. Anyway, but I thought I'd ask around just where people are on these things. Okay,
I will say, Mohammed, thank you for letting me use Netflix for as long as you did. My sister especially thanks you for allowing me to use Netflix as long as you did. Because she got a lot more use out of it than I did, to be honest.
Yeah. Well. Okay.
Oh, and also, do any of you pay for Spotify?
I do.
I do.
I do as well.
Okay, there's my third service.
I'm the only oddball.
I do use it.
I
I'm the
do
odd
not
one,
pay
yes.
for it unless they give me the 3 months for $10 promo.
And you get that? Do you get that every so often?
I get it every few months.
Cool.
Like 2 to 3 times a year.
I was bribed by their Google Nest Mini and just never unsubscribed.
That's really got me too.
And honestly, like going for a walk without hearing ads only for Spotify is nice. Like it's amazing, like their method, because like that's the only ads you get is just please subscribe to Spotify. So it's like, and they're so annoying. Like it ruins the immersive experience of listening to music or a podcast. So like it's expensive. Oh, the other thing I do subscribe to is I do subscribe to YouTube as well. Again, I was bribed because of some like Pokemon Go integration or something. But like honestly, like it's amazing because my YouTube experience is completely different from most people. Like I get YouTube ads when I'm at school, which are exclusively for Grammarly, kind of funnily enough. But like I don't get YouTube ads now, which is such a different experience. Like I just go on YouTube if I want to see a video, the video's there. Like it's
don't have to wait 5 to 15 seconds.
Yeah, like it's nice. Like when I, have an ad storm on something like Twitch, it's so annoying. And I'm not gonna pay for Twitch. I only watch my friend, really. My friends, little streams with like 5 to 10 people.
Me too.
So like it's not worth that. But like YouTube and Spotify, like it's more of like a, user interface, like it's a comfort thing rather than like quality of life rather than any particular content I'm getting.
Okay, that's one way to put it. Okay.
I feel like every time I stop paying for Spotify, they've added one more new thing to make the free experience worse. And this time around, they've now embedded ads into the podcasts. They'll just stick them in at the beginning, or they'll stick them in random parts in the middle. Because for a long time, they did not touch the podcast section. So the podcasts never had ads.
I should
weren't
listen
done by the content creators themselves.
I should listen to the. Oh wait, I was about to say I should listen to a podcast on one of our episodes on Spotify.
And the problem is that even paying listeners get those embedded ads now.
So say that again.
So
paying
listeners will hear those embedded ads in podcasts now.
I should listen to an episode of this podcast just for fun on Spotify.
I don't think our episodes get affected, but I know
it's not as if we're trying to do anything with it.
But I know a few others I've listened to. It's happened.
Do you think they're anchor podcasts? Because that's owned by Spotify, isn't it? I'm just wondering.
I don't know.
I'm just wondering how you ended up with it. That's all.
Every time I've gone off and on, it's like, oh, they added more ads in between, or you don't hear as many songs in a row before you hit ads. And it felt noticeable, and I thought, wow, they're really trying to get me to pay.
Yep.
And
that's how.
And you know what? If I really had to pay every month, I'd try and make sure I can get access to my old U of T email so that I can get $5 a month instead of 10.
Well, I mean, that's sort of how Crunchyroll were able to reel me in 10 minutes of ads for every 7-minute episode of Battleship Tiramisu.
You know where there's no ads?
Where?
You know that special spot of the internet where you can watch it where there's no ads?
uBlock, when I watch YouTube. Yeah, I know.
But Mo, then we'll end up like Indigo and we'll compromise our computers.
Oh boy.
I mean, that is hilarious.
Okay, we're supposed to defragment our computers every so often anyway.
Well, I'm glad you brought up books one more time. Okay. So so yesterday I went to the library, got the latest another 3 volumes of Kaguya-sama Love is War. Looks like where I am in the manga is about where the movie will be when it comes into theaters on Tuesday, just for reference.
Those sets of chapters are kind of wild.
Yeah,
because I was telling you how I skipped ahead, and looks kind of fun. But at the same time, a lot of things do get addressed too.
So yeah, I'm near the end of essentially near the end of the anime TV series. So basically, I'm pretty much almost at where the movie will take place, right?
And I like that Yu finally gets more attention now. He's not just a useless side character.
No, and they really tell his story pretty well. Okay, here's my dilemma though. Here's my dilemma, Kevin, and I know you'll do your best to talk me out of doing this.
Okay.
Before we go tonight, 24 volumes of the manga have been released in North America so far via Viz. I couldn't check the Indigo price because but on Amazon they're $13 Canadian.
Yeah, $13.64 after tax.
Okay, thank you. The ebook version, you can get that all in one lump. I think it's like $100. I think it's like $160 something before tax for the whole thing to this point on ebook, and it's immediate, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know where we're going.
I'll give you 30 seconds to talk me out of that.
Just buy the books when
the real books,
30% off.
Oh yeah, that. Oh that, yes. Whenever Indigo survives.
And you have books that you can sell later and get most of that back when you really need the money.
Oh yeah.
There's an easier way, Mike,
End conversation.
Well, do you think there'll be a box set like they did for Demon Slayer?
It's a possibility, but nothing is guaranteed.
No guarantee, but I could see a box set.
Well, it's only guaranteed if you're an S tier title.
Is Kaguya-sama an S tier? That's open.
In my opinion, it's more of an A than an S.
Yeah, actually, that's open to some debate now that I said it. Okay.
Given with the anime and how it's been doing, you never know. So it's a coin toss in the air.
Yeah, which has me wondering. And yes, the Kaguya-sama movie is one I'm curious to see. Tuesday and Saturday are the known show dates here in the Toronto area.
Oh, is it this week?
Yes,
Yep.
it is.
And most of the seats are gone, it seems.
Most of the seats for the evening shows on Tuesday are gone. All the Saturday shows are gone. If you're willing to do 4 p.m. or 2 p.m. downtown, there's a conversation there.
They'll release more seats on Wednesday.
You think there'll be more on Wednesday?
Yep.
Okay, maybe when I get a day off.
Oh yeah, Tuesday would be sold out because of the discount.
No discount. No, well, at this point, no discount. It's looking at the tickets, it's like $14.
Oh, they're not even giving you the Tuesday discount?
No,
because I think the anime they consider an event, don't they?
Well, it's an event. It's a premiere.
No, but usually by Tuesday you'll still get the discount because I saw Evangelion 4.0 on Tuesday and got the discount
on its premiere date.
Oh no, premiere day was the Thursday, so it was the following Tuesday when I saw it.
Because this is premiere date. This is premiere day.
Premiere on a Tuesday?
Yeah, it's a premiere. Well, it's Valentine's on Tuesday. Why wouldn't they try it? Why wouldn't they try it? But just a thought. And maybe that might be the first movie I want to go see, anime-wise, in some time. Also,
that is a really sold out screening. That is a lot of.
He's looking it up. You're looking it up. Yeah.
That's why, and they obviously want to pay the extra money because they have to book online, right?
Well, yeah.
Which is why I'm probably not going to go to the movies for a long time. I just want to go to the theater,
hey, how do you guys feel about that?
Find my seat, and watch the movie. Can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I know. And AMC bringing in the charges this week.
It's bullshit, and yes, that will force me to go buy my tickets at the door every time now, and risk it selling out on me.
Well, at least you get to drive and breathe in some fresh city air. Okay, on the topic of sellouts, should we? RADWIMPS did announce a North American or part of their North American tour. Is it referred to as a world tour or North American tour?
I believe it's a North American tour.
I think North American tour. It's the one they probably canceled because of COVID.
Yes.
Now they're finally coming around to do it again, and I'm guessing it was same venues as before, and smaller venues.
Yeah, so when it comes to Toronto, it's the QE Theater on the grounds of the CNE. Should we really be surprised it's sold out?
Not
really surprised, given the venue and the size of it. They probably could have done maybe a tad bigger venue and still had the intimate experience. But
what do you think the aftermarket?
I kind of waffled on buying a ticket and then
regretted it. I would have wanted.
I don't listen to that much of their stuff, to be honest.
Obviously, as a Shinkai fan, I would have been curious, but somehow I'd feel okay. I would have been cool, but okay. Sorry, anyone else before we go tonight? No?
In terms of what? Anything?
Well, any final thought before we call it a night? I know it's late, and I think the Super Bowl's almost over.
It ended.
Oh, it just ended? Okay.
Eagles did not. The Eagle didn't land.
Yeah.
So you're saying Mahomes won?
The Holmes did make it, yo.
Yeah, he made it.
Who was the best Mahomes commercial?
I believe.
You believe? Oh, he got cut off. Okay.
Anyway, but actually, funny enough, remember we had talked about events last time, Mike, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably should update quickly. Like, remember we talked about that Japan Society, NYC, the Japanese Animation and Global Era. The nice thing is that if people still want to watch it, they can on the Japan Society NYC YouTube channel under their live feed, and then it's all recorded, which is kind of nice.
Hopefully, I'll be able to put up the link in our show notes for last episode.
And then I guess Discotek had their panel and stuff like that. It was an interesting bunch of announcements and some important things to tell people, I guess. Like in regards to like Shaman King, Digimon, those type of ones, they were saying, well, it's great you guys are supporting the English versions, but please remember to support the Japanese versions, which they work so hard subtitling that because they need the support if they want to do future shows where they do the original like Saturday cartoon type version and the Japanese version, which made me wonder. I wonder how Monster Hunter and Samurai Pizza Cats did, because they did a similar thing for them. But I guess it's the type thing of the nostalgia is more stronger sometimes than you think for the English version that they first watched.
Do you mean Monster Rancher?
Monster
Yeah,
Rancher.
Monster Rancher.
Okay.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
I said Hunter. I know. I'm looking now. I'm like, that's a game, not a. Well, actually, it is an anime now too. I forget which version they turned into an anime, but yeah, Monster Rancher. That's terrible. Went for the full Fox Kids and didn't get. But funny enough, they're thinking of the announcements. They had some interesting ones. Thinking on Western animation, they are continuing to release some interesting ones on that SD Blu-ray. They're going to do The Legend of Calamity Jane, which was a co-pro between France and WB. And I think that one, they said, didn't even go through all of WB when it aired. So Americans will see it. I think they said it was on Teletoon. I can't remember if I saw it on Teletoon or not, because I do think I remember seeing it late 90s.
Do they have Mummies Alive yet?
No, they do not, but we can always hope. And they said, yeah, Kodacha, the next season, is finally going to come out soon and stuff like that. They had to go through a lot of subtitling for that, just like they did many of those other things like Shaman King and Digimon, of course. And then there were definitely some other ones. I think their big one was Hideki Anno's Re Cutie Honey. They had announced that.
Yeah, that was the biggest one, I think. Yeah, I remember seeing the pictures.
Yeah, they had Mazinger versus Great General Darkness. That was another one they were going to dub. They talked about other things they had announced before, like Go Gaigar Final, Aim of the Ace. They're going to do the movie of that. And so some other interesting little ones. I think some other classics. They said a wind named Amnesia, and then Area. And those two, I think, were from CPM originally.
Yeah, those are old titles, but
they had some different old ones. I think they even had a newer title through Magical Girl Lyrica Nanoha Reflection.
Yeah, it's another, something in there.
Oh, yeah, that was an interesting pickup, considering how most of the Nanoha franchise has still been, from what we can tell, unavailable to North America. But I know with Reflection, most of the work is done. So it's, there's not that much more work to be done on it in comparison to other titles, but
they also had think about Metabots. I guess the reason they had mentioned about the Japanese size Metarot, which is the Japanese version of Metabots, they said they were going to get that out. So that's why I think they were saying, please support the Japanese versions as well, even though it's an extra purchase and stuff like that. And then they talked about some of their live action ones, and they had, what was it? Bohachi Bushido, the villain, which was supposedly quite bloody. But the one that I think people were talking about that gave me a hilarious laugh was, and I think they said if they played the full trailer, we would have never had to watch the movie, The Bullet Train. And do you want to know what The Bullet Train's about?
I'm afraid to find out, but...
Have you ever watched Speed?
Keanu Reeves?
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock? Oh.
It's basically like that. I'm sure I know how the movie ends. All the Japanese people got onto this nice bullet train in the 70s. It went really fast. They thought, oh no, it can't stop and stuff like that. But there was no bomb below or anything like that. It actually stopped and got off on time at the station. Everyone went home. I'm sure that's what happened.
Love your brand of backhanded there.
But I think that one was supposedly well before Speed and stuff like that. So I bet there was some inspiration from that movie.
You wonder. Okay. But forgot about the Discotek stuff. As I said, it's just been a ride lately.
If we're talking licenses,
one last thing.
I'll quickly bring up the Viz Media manga licenses that happened a short while ago.
Okay.
So
last thing.
They confirmed Stone Ocean is going to be printed, but that was a given because they were already doing the digital chapters for that on the Shonen Jump app. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean, so part 6. They're doing some Spy Family, like, filler guidebook stuff, stuff that, of course, they're going to license that to get more money.
Or Junji Ito, I believe.
The Demon Slayer Kimetsu Academy side manga, which I didn't know they actually turned this into a series, because
I remember hearing about that, actually.
I totally read that. Because every so often, Koyoharu Gotoge would do some short little comics or just little images of the characters as if they were in a high school. Those are always cute to see. So Nezuko, instead of the scroll, it has a loaf of bread in her mouth.
Yes, she's constantly nibbling on bread. So, yeah.
Let's see what else.
Go down the list. Anything else?
Mimi's Tales of Terror, which is another Junji Ito work, because it's the
That's
gift
why I said
that
more
keeps on
Junji
giving
Ito, right?
for them.
Why not?
They seem to be doing like 2 or 3 a year and stuff like that. Works for them on the high end.
Yeah. And Blade the Moon Princess by Tatsuya Endo, the creator of Spy Family.
Well, strike the iron while it's hot.
Takopi's Original Sin, which is a short jump plus series. That's only 2 volumes, but it seems like the internet did enjoy that one, so it looks like a quick and easy pickup. The Dracula Midnight Children manga by Shinichi Sakamoto. Looks like they picked that up because maybe they lost the bid on Innocent, perhaps. Who knows what happened on that?
Mm-hmm.
Because, of course, if Dark Horse is putting on Innocent, yeah, let's put out other stuff by him too. And an FMA 20th anniversary book. And
why not?
And let's see, 3 more things of note. So they did get some shoujo manga licenses in. They got.
That was going to be my question. Is there shoujo for you?
Okay, let's hear them.
So Sakura Saku by Iosaki Saka. So that's the Strobe Edge and Awaharu Ride creator. Tamon's B-side by Yuki Shiwasu, who did Takane and Hana. And Neighborhood Story by Ayazawa.
Wow. That's a name
that was a bomb.
That's a name I remember.
They announced that, and I was like, damn, you finally did it, Viz, you bastards.
Huh.
Yeah, that's a pre-order for me.
Yeah. Wow.
Can't believe it's finally coming out.
That's pretty good. Okay. Well, now we all know there are things to look forward to. So there you go. But it is getting, once again, a little late. I mean, we know you're running late when the Super Bowl ends before you do.
But insert drum roll.
Thank you.
But didn't Super Bowl start before we did?
Oh, yeah, that too. But,
Oh, actually, how much are we going to get sued now, Mike? Weren't we supposed to call it the big game or something?
Well, yeah, that too. Anyway, but... Well, at least that's over with, and so is for now the for us, the chats always continue, but for now we got to finish the conversation for tonight. So that's all we got for now. Once again, if you want to contact us, animeroundtable@gmail.com, at animeroundtable, animeroundtable.com. Yes, I'll mention Twitch, twitch.tv/animeroundtable, and I'll do some experimenting in the next, hopefully, couple weeks. And maybe you'll see that on the YouTube channel too. Once again, though, on the podcast side, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. Because any reviews, probably good reviews, might help us in the algorithm and hopefully expose us to another audience. People do mention when I mentioned the name of this show, they said, well, I think I've seen it mentioned on so-and-so before. But in the end, you know what type of reviews we're looking for, right, Kevin?
Of course. 5-star ones, or 4-star ones, or 3-star ones. Heck,
or
even
just
2-stars.
Or ones, because at least we know somebody has listened.
Well, preferably not 1-star, if I had to be honest.
For now, we try to do something a few times a month. At least 2 a month. This is the first one of our for our February quota, if I'm not mistaken, right?
You're correct.
Thank you. So we're halfway there. We'll try and do things weekly or bi-weekly. Granted, things are about to go in a slight bit of flux, but we'll keep trying. In any event, though, please give us a subscribe, a like, or a follow on any of the platforms we're on so you don't miss out whenever we actually do something. Also, if you have a Spotify account, a paid one, like a few of us do, sometimes we just forget to end our subscriptions. But if you do have a paid Spotify account, please check out the Anime Roundtable playlist for a list of songs based on things we bring up every so often on the show. The theme song is entitled Fubuki Snowstorm by Piko Misaki, which is the title track of her current album. You can check out more of her music at picoinfinity.com or on Facebook at picozenmusic. You could have listened to any anime podcast in the world, but you decide to listen to ours, and we do appreciate it. Thanks for listening. And join us again for another edition of the Anime Roundtable.